Hey guys, and today I'm gonna talking about compression in Modular Synth. For example, we take a new Squinky Labs compression, which is sound quite nice. I would say very nice. So let's start with the basics. So typical compressor has a threshold control, which allows you to control desirable amount of threshold of any incoming audio into the input, and then you should set your attack and release desired time, very material dependent settings, and they relies on the groove, so it can bring transients up or even cut any transients or increase the sustain a bit, and so on. Also, we've got fixed ratio control, for example 2:1, 4:1, 8:1 and 20:1. It reminds me a bit 1176 famous compression, and this tool is also can work as a limiter. It would be useful on the master, I believe. Also, we've got a very effective bypass button, because each time we should compare processing and unprocessing signal and control the makeup gain, because we don't need to lie from the compressor, just get unity gain to achieve desirable effect, not just pushing volume louder. And here is a mix knob. It can allows you to do a famous parallel compression. I'm gonna talking about a bit later. So, for example, why do you need the compression overall in electronic music? Many say that it doesn't be a necessary tool in, for example, patching, on creating sounds or making sounds different, because typical synthesizer has envelope generator control, but each compressor has its own sound and compression has its own sound, and when you building up the mix in the mixer, you will always find the lack of the groove. And for me, the compressor is a tool for making your patch groovy. So to understand it, how it works on practice, I'm gonna do a techno patch from scratch, and you will see every aspect how I set up compressor for myself. So let's take the palettes and let's start with the kick drum. Kick drum is a pretty common tool to compress in rock music or some like pop, but for electronic music too. And the heavier you wanna do the track, the heavier compression you want to be applied to the mix. Let's have a listen. I forgot to say, by the way, that here is a gain reduction meter. According to manual, each LED in there shows 2 decibel of gain reduction. Just keep that in mind, not 1 but 2. So typical amount of gain reduction for me is from 1 or 2 to 10, depends on desirable sound. But if you go too heavy, you will remove any transient information and punch. And also you need a good monitoring control, or near good, to get how the compressor actually works. So let's get into the mix or patching. So let's bypass the compressor first. Just make any sound you like. And let's increase the BPM. Compression parameter like release time is very reliable on BPM, so it's speed of the release each time, how the compressor release these actions on the sound. So for example, I like this sound. Let's apply a compression. Oh, here is enable. And the next important step, we should make unity gain control, or with help with a peak meter here. And let's start manipulating the sound. When you want to make some punchy sound, your release time would be something shortly. And ratio, for example, with hard key is the character of how compressor is actually working. So for the kick drum, I think the hard is a nice. So let's bypass it. We actually perceive volume gain here, unity gain, and you hear that silent character of the kick drum suddenly pushing up in front of you. When you're working on listening into monitors, it's pretty hard to understand in the headphones, but I hope you will. So nice, let's move to the bass, and I think the faster one with some variableness will be good example for compression, how it actually glue sounds. The bass sound is, the more compression it would get to be a bit nicer, just because you don't want to listening sometimes bass that suddenly goes down or up. Just louder bass that keeps our groove. So here we go, let's tweak the bass with the faster gates, triggers, and you see actually it works pretty fast because it's pretty low. So let's try to find our chorus note. Let's disable compressor at first. And let's apply some low frequency oscillator. Let's see what's going on. I think the mode is a nice way. Let's take this one. Let's apply a boomstick. It's my favorite filter for any bass sound. You see that sub is coming through. So you see little variables in the volume. So let's apply the compressor. So I found that bass loves some 8:1 ratio. Setting a release parameter is just, it's a gut feeling. So you suddenly hear that it's start making a groove. Actually glue oral sinew listen here, and it's pretty important aspect of the making good bass. And you will see that filtering actually relates on the level, so it keeps the bass on the desirable volume a bit. So let's apply another LFO to test it. So you can already see that compression is pretty nice tool for patching, for making your ideas stable, good sounding. So I've got a new macro from Sturmelder, and let's apply to both by passes to immediately see the difference of compressed and uncompressed sound. So when the knob at 0 points is a bypass and now is active, you see the vibration, and now it's pretty dull. And I know from my mixing practice that compressor, some compression, especially this one, and this one is pretty good thanks to the developer of Squinky Labs. It's actually sound quite nice. You can just feel it, but you apply a compression, but it actually changes the frequency response a bit. So okay, let's move to the melodic stuff. Let's apply another palette and AZ modular for making as fast as possible sequences with help of GV tricks. Let's clock it. Don't forget to remove outputs reset, or otherwise you will get the wrong reset here. Let's reduce the length. To 16. Something like that, and let's apply it to the clock. And let's tap some notes here and apply them to the palette. Don't forget to add another compression. Also, you don't want to be mad about compressing too hard everything, especially for melodic stuff, because it's pretty perceived by the human hearing. Okay, let's do some mid-bass stuff. It's already a wrong set of the makeup gain here. Nice sound actually. Let's apply some modulation, low frequency oscillator. And let's apply unison, and this compressor is actually a polyphonic one, and I respect to the Bruce for that, because I love polyphonic stuff in VCV Rack so much. Okay, we should apply some envelope generator like Rampage to see what happens when envelope stuff coming through the compressor. So let's apply some trigger into the envelope, again from GV Tricks. Too short. I need another filter, something nice as stable. And let's apply again a ramp patch to it. And let's apply a delay for testing, because I think when you have some groovy delay applied before you setting up the compressor, you will definitely get something different with it. So let's start with compression. You might hear that stuff becomes so much clearer. And I think this compressor is pretty much coloring compressor. Okay, let's try something hard and then apply a parallel compressor effect to get the idea what's going on. So you might hear it squash pretty much now and pushing overall track, and the delay in the send. And let's decrease the mix amount here. So at 15% knob position, we're actually gonna hear the fully processed and squashed signal by around 10 to 12 dB and 8:1 ratio, and the clearer signal with natural decay of the rampage of palette, and you still hear the effect. It might become subtle, but it is not. I like that setting. Okay, let's add some hi-hat with my favorite tool from Autodafing. Let's apply some Boolean logic and decrease the overall steps in the head. Let's apply a reverb, decrease the damp a bit. Nice. Let's decrease high frequencies. Nice. So let's apply compression to the hi-hat as well. So let's try 20:1 ratio. It's pretty hard, it's near as a limiter. With these settings you can actually hear that all the decay parameter is just gone, and you hear that stick on the hi-hat. And if you like to cut any stick, you should decrease an attack as low as you can. We do hear some jump in the sound. So let's apply a macro to that parameter 2. And let's bypass without compression. Without. It actually became quite darker, as I like to do. You hear just different decays around without the compressor, but with it just gluing together. Very nice. Especially for electronic music. Okay, the next type of compression is a bus compressor. For example, it's very popular on drum group, or for example, so we got to add some claps before to apply it, because the claps or snares has a pretty nice punch that affects overall envelope follower inside a compressor. So let's set our triggers here. Let's also apply compressor to the snare. Already working, and it's quite interesting sound with the compressor. So with the 0 settings in this compressor, you will actually hear some a bit of saturation driving, but with the expected compressor character. Any decay you set the before compressor will actually squashed by sound. You should hear the difference pretty clearly right now. So let's put our drums in the group 1. Let's solve them. And let's take melt. Think that you can use in case of some extracting from polyphonic outputs. So if we take I believe this one into this one and into this one. Just forgot how to set up these things, so sorry. But we can see that compressor actually received the sound. Wow! It showed that I missed overall thing there. Let's remake this. Oh, you hear that effect? It's too much for drum compressor, indeed. We lost our punchiness in our drum. I prefer 2-to-1 or 4-to-1 kind of SSL bus compressor, and watch your makeup gain, of course. I have one trick how to set up compressor attack and release parameters. Just put your threshold down and start to increase attack time. until you hear a desirable attack. For me it's like here, I believe. Then increase the release to catch when your ear catch the groove. Then put your threshold back and compare to the unprocessed sound. So what is exactly doing? It's time overall drum bass now, and louder element here is a kick drum. You can see actually how kick drum work in here. So it's actually gives some headrooms for other drums and more headroom to the patch. Let's listen to the mix. Maybe too much. Listen to the kick drum carefully. It actually jumps through the mix. Pretty cool. Let's apply some pad at the end of the patch. Let's use a palette. Let's duplicate a modular and set a clock a bit lower than it is. Set some granular format. I don't think we need to compress a pad right now. I just add it to demonstrate the master bus compression, which is another type of using compression in the mixing practice. Apply some low frequency modulation, round note, sorry. Let's apply unison as well. Let's also add some faster head as in typical techno batch, and also put it to the drum group. Let's also apply a compression to it because it now it conflicts with the open head. And maybe compressor can solve our trouble. And actually it is. It just removes some kind of decay from the open head and pass the open head through it. Very nice. Also adjust open head too. Take some attenuator to apply the rest of the bypasses here to make a final decision about would we need compressor compressor in Modular Synth while making the batches or not. So now without the compressor, and you hear that disbalance in levels and overall groove. Maybe it's because I set wrong levels. But actually you can see the level doesn't change, it just reduces those peaks in the meter. Very nice. Let's apply a bus compressor to the comparison tool. Even worse. So yeah, okay, let's add master bus compression. It will always something 2-to-1 just for add a bit final glue to the overall sound. Let's disassemble cables. Do this again. You can definitely hear a makeup disbalance. And let's try to compress. A typical attack time for master bus compressor is at 30 milliseconds, and release pretty depend on your batch or track. And 2 to 4 dB gain reduction is more than enough. Just say makeup gain carefully, and the difference should be pretty subtle. Let's apply some more to find the proper release time. I think it's something here, some punchy. Put some feedback on the delay. You may hear difference or not. I hear a little bit difference in overall groove. Let's try to 4-to-1 as a classic SSL bus compressor setting. And it's pretty nice for techno patch. You can see a bit harder kick drum with it, just a subtle bit. Okay, and in the end, let's try a limiter for sound maximizing, if we can. Actually, I don't know. So let's disassemble again. For proper sound maximizing, you actually need LUFS meter, or at least RMS meter, but it's true to our instincts. Let's increase the volume. I will not do this much because I will get a clipping in the video recording software. So the typical threshold on the master bus is around 3 decibel gain reduction, but sometimes, especially for techno, it can go to 5 or even 7. It depends your target volume. Most of the limiter doesn't have an attack and release control. You may see that of FabFilter. For this, I think we don't need attack, at least, and the middle release or default release. actually punch some. I don't know how this limiter works, unfortunately. Maybe like that. So yeah, I hope you understand the principles of compressor here, and if you're gonna use it in your patching, it will be very cool, because this is sound without compressor and this is with. The difference is pretty much not subtle. So thank you for watching, guys. You can get this patch on my Patreon and get the new Squinky Labs compressor in VCV Rack library. So see you next time.